And today we are going to talk about and then build a Scramble game in real time. Give me 1 second. Get this presentation going. All righty. The ubiquitous, can you all see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Great. Seriously, if we all had nickels for every time you said you're on mute or can you see my screen, we could all stop working. All right. Thanks again for joining us today, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Jake. We are here to build a Scramble game. So let's unscramble. So first of all, if you are unfamiliar, we have a product called the Training Arcade here at ELB Learning and the Game Agency. We developed this tool so that you could gamify your training without any coding required. If you're like me, or like a lot of other people, you know how to use computers, you don't know the ones and zeros and all that good stuff to actually codify and build your own game. So we have done that for you. We have a suite of 10 different games, one of which is Scramble, which we'll be going through today. It also includes Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune, the only officially licensed versions of those games. So God love you if you are playing a Jeopardy game for training and it's not ours, it is a bootleg. It can work, but we have the official one. However, all of our 10 games can help with these different kinds of learnings. Recall, categorize, that will be something for Scramble today. Recall and categorize, some wordplay and visualization. A lot of our games touch on many different kinds of these. And just a reminder, if you want, you can always get a free trial to the Training Arcade for 2 weeks to start building some games and checking it out yourself, which I'll show you shortly. All right, so let's unscramble. So one of the performance objectives that we had when creating Scramble was strategic thinking, getting things in the right order, quickly, correctly, and improving skills as describing, explaining. If you are needing to touch up on terminology, phrases, this could be really great for sales teams. I could think of a ton of different applications for this. And also at the end of the day, this is one of our more simpler games to create and deploy, meaning you can create these games. Gosh, I've done it in 5 minutes. You know, they don't look the prettiest, but they work and you can make it happen in just that small amount of time. Now, 1 second. All right. Another incredible thing about the Training Arcade is our analytics dashboard and our actionable analytics. So this is a preview over here of what they look like on the right side. And these are the ways on the left, these pink buttons here, where you can break them down. Everything is available in aggregate, by player, by session, by question. I have actually sat when we've deployed Jeopardy games to large audiences, tens of thousands of people, and I have sat and in real time watched questions where people 10 to 15% of people are getting them right. And I will change those clues in real time to make them easier or more accessible rather. And I can watch the accuracy go up in real time. It's really cool. It's a really powerful tool. And you can download all of this information in an Excel sheet, you can SCORM wrap it. There are 1,000,001 ways to get this data wherever you need it to analyze your training efficacy. All right, another great thing about Scramble and our games and game-based learning in general is micro-learning. No one has time for anything these days, right? No one has any attention spans. I bet I just caught a couple of you not paying attention to me. I won't hold it against you. I'm just kidding. But our attention spans are short. They really are. And particularly if you're trying to learn something new, learning new things can be frustrating. So having games that have, levels, or you can actually, set an amount of time to play them to make them quick and bite-sized is the way I like to think of it. And just remembering a couple of things at a time, as opposed to, running into that cognitive overload where you're having too many things thrown at you, you don't remember anything, and your training and everything you learned just kind of fell apart. So micro-learning and Scramble are really great games, are a great micro-learning tool, and Scramble is one of those great games. All right, repeat play. On top of that, we have found that 58% of players saw an improvement in knowledge between the first and third play. Imagine that. You're playing something more, you are re-engaging with that training material, and it's being solidified in your memory for faster recall. We can attribute this to gamification. If you have leaderboards, Well, actually, hang on. Let me do a live example real quick because this was cool. So I was scrolling Netflix the other day, and they had a new program on called the Triviaverse. I recommend it. It was a game on Netflix that you can just answer random trivia questions by, clicking your directional pad. And I was like, oh, this is fun. I'll check it out once. And I played, I got my score, and at the end, they had a list of achievements, and I only got like the third level of achievement, and the achievement was like resoundingly average. So I went, oh, heck no, I'm not going to stand for that. And I went back and I played again. And then I played again. And then I played 5 more times in half an hour until I climbed to the top of that leaderboard and got that last achievement. So you can harness that for your trainers as well, if they log, or for your learners as well. If I'm logging in and I saw that Stephanie got a higher score than me, I'm not going to stand for that. I'm going to go back in. I'm going to play that game again, and I want to beat Stephanie's score. And this is a really healthy way to harness the competitive nature of learners to get them repeating that material, engaging with it, which we know drills down that material into your brain. All right, all that said, let's build a game. All righty, so here we are now in the training arcade. If you're unfamiliar, this looks a little familiar. See, as here is all that great data that I was talking about. But these are different games that we have in the training arcade. You can see the different game types, sessions, players, the accuracy overall. A lot of these are test ones. And you can sort them by who created them, when, modification, all that good stuff. You can also add tags to any of your games, and that's just simply a way for classification and for you to find them easier. And here's where you can cut up the data by different dates and then download it. You can download specific games. You can download overall games, overall players, generate that quick report. I'm not going to do it right now because it's going to clog up my internet, and then it will download into an Excel file, and you can do with it as you see fit. So yeah, you can download that data for your entire training arcade, all the games, all the players like you saw, or you can do it per game. Great. Now let's build a Scramble game. So in the training arcade, click a new game. This will have maybe more or less on it depending on the amount of games you purchase from the training arcade. You can buy 3, 7, or 10. Now, this is a game info screen. This page looks pretty much the same for all of our games in the training arcade. Now, I'm going to go through this step by step, but once you have learned this page, you basically know how to do it on every single one of our 10 games. So here we go. First of all, you need to name the game. Test 1, 2, 3 is my go-to. Now you'll notice that once I click off of the game name, voila, the URL for this game auto-populates with what I've named it. If you want to add anything to the URL, you absolutely can. This is the easiest way to share this out to your learners. I will get there momentarily. Default language. We are now proud to offer 20 different languages, in the training arcade. We just added Czech, Dutch, and Polish. Note, what this does is it does not translate the content of your game. That would be a different webinar to go through. What it does is it translates the instructions, the UI. So if you look here, it says submit. If I change this to German, oh, my German teacher would be so mad at me. I can't remember the German word for submit right now, but that's what it would be. It would change the UI and the instructions for the game, not the content. Here's where you can add tags to just further classify it if you want to. Now, this box, the game settings, if anything is going to be different really between our games, it's going to be this, and that is simply due to game mechanics, right? First of all, almost all of our games have a timer for questions. This is entirely up to you. I like having timers on questions because it puts you just a little bit under pressure, try and recall that information, get it out there. If you want to make things more accessible, you don't have to have a timer on for most of our games. Percent required to pass. Now, since we're building a game kind of for fun here, I usually put the game at 0 because I'm not really testing you on anything. We're doing this as a demo. If, however, you're training people on pharmaceuticals, I would hope that you are allowing them to pass with a little higher than 0, maybe an 80, I don't know, 75 I could take to in my pharmacist, but it's as simple as just typing in whatever amount you want them to have it before they can pass. Great. Session limits. So you can have session limits. This is a tool to put a kibosh on. Some people, play games too much. You can get stuck in them, right? So you can put on session limits to prevent that. You can also put on session limits to make it a true knowledge check, right? Hey, you get one shot at this. This is your test. You could also put session limits on for, say, some sort of contest or a sales contest. Hey, whoever gets the highest score or racks up the most points in X amount of time, you win lunch with Jake and Stephanie, because who doesn't want that? So you can have those sessions, and it's as easy as you click on it, click on the time, and you could set it down to the 5 minutes. Say, you had this for an actual class, boom. So now you could only play this game for those 50 minutes. Note, if you have this on, this link to sign on to the game will still work, meaning like it's not just going to be dead. But when someone tries to actually start playing that game, it'll just say, this game is unavailable at this time, just as a heads up. All right, we don't need session limits. Randomized questions. So when we go to create questions, they will be in a specific order. So if I want to randomize them, I usually don't, because there's usually a method to my madness in putting them in specific order. It's as simple as yes or no. If you have yes on, the game will just randomly draw questions and pose them to your learners. If you have it no, it'll go through them in the order that you set them. If we randomize the questions, I can limit the number of questions that are shown. So like, okay, only show them 20 questions, right? But if I turn that off, oops, there we go, then that function doesn't work. Show a tutorial before the game. I'm going to say no, because I'm going to show you how to play, but that is as easy as clicking yes if you want that on for your learners. Now, at the end, once you've played the game, hey, thanks for playing, they have the option to look at the leaderboard, play again, and you can put in another button. So if I want to send them to that URL, because it just happened to be there, I can put a button at the end that says learn more about Jeopardy, or learn more about this topic that we just touched on, or follow this link to fill out this survey after this game. Whatever you want to do with it, or you don't have to have anything at all. That's what's great about a lot of these training arcade games. If you want to get it down to kind of the bare bones and just launch a game, you can do that. Or if you want to throw in a ton of information, a lot of engagement for your learners, you can do that too. All up to you. Information pop-up. Now, this is there to show up to your learners before the game, to give them a little information of, why are we here? How did I get this beautiful life? All right. So this just tells you a little bit of, why are you here? How do we play the game? What are we trying to do? Again, don't have to have it. I like having it. Just give some context to your learners. Okie dokie. Now, quick coffee break. Now, down to one of the last things, user registration. So authorization is different from registration. Authorization is even allowing you to just get to the game. So you can have an authorized player list, meaning this is simply an Excel file that you upload with names and emails and stuff. So if I only want new employee training list, then they will be added to this game. They're the only ones who can log on to and play this game. You can also have a single sign-on integration. That is another quick and easy integration. You just match up your SSO provider with the training arcade, or you don't have to have any authorization at all. But you can still turn on registration, which is simply just collecting some unique information from your learners. It starts off with these first name, last name, email, because those are pretty much the go-tos. If you want, you can ask for more information. You can add custom fields, and they can be drop downs or text inputs. And this is so you can uniquely identify your learners. If you have that information off, there will be a unique code that generates to identify your learners, but it'll be hard to know Jake from Stephanie, from Bob, from Sue, from whomever, right? So you can have that registration on. Now, pro tip, if you turn off the registration, so no, I don't need registration, but you turn on the leaderboard, this will, there you go, it will ask for users' initials or name, you know, those 3 letters you had to immortalize yourself in the arcade as a kid, and we all always chose something inappropriate because we were so very cool. But I would put Jake the Snake as my name, right? It's enough to identify me, but it's not personal information. So this is all entirely up to you. I also highly recommend having the leaderboard on because, as I talked about earlier, it's that gamification element that we want to capture, and it motivates your audience to play the game. Great. Now, I'm going to click Save. Uh-oh. Look at that. So if you've forgotten to do something for building out the base part of the game, we'll tell you. So you need to have at least 1 question in your game. So honestly, from time to time, I like to just kind of throw in a little filler at first, just so I can save the game. Oh, I do this every single time. This is my go-to. See if that's going to work. Oh, no, I got that too. All right, there we go. Nice. Okay, perfect. So it'll tell you if there are errors or something is wrong, preventing you from saving the game. And so you know. Great. Now to build our question. So like I said, Scramble is one of truly the easier, less complicated games to play or to build even as well. And that's nice because you can just kind of like dive right into it. So I created a game a couple of months ago for our website that was terms involving change management. So I have a quick 5-clue game that I built. And if any of you have joined these game building webinars before, you know that this is my favorite template. This is actually a template I used for building Jeopardy games, but I use them for every game as just, you know, okay, here's a question.
Jake, you may want to zoom in on that.
You got it.
Yes.
There you go.
Better.
Thank you, Stephanie. So this was just an Excel, you know, grid that I moved over to a doc. You can do whatever works for you. You can build the game directly in the training arcade, which I do sometimes. However, I highly recommend, and I always build the text or the content outside of the training arcade. It's easier to type in here. It's easier to collaborate with other people in your team, and then you just kind of have the information, the content living elsewhere, because sometimes I will use this information to build different games, right? Sometimes the same clues can be used in different games, different game types. So that's that. Now, here we go. So you have 2 options in Scramble. You can do a letter scramble or a sentence, meaning do you rearrange literally a word or an entire sentence? So we're going to start with letter. And here is my question. We'll play through this as well. So I just copy and paste the question in. Again, I could easily just type it in there if I wanted to. Just go ahead and copy and paste. Here's my answer. Paste that there as well. Now, since we put in the game info, game settings, we want to use the default timer 30 seconds. Look at that. It auto-populated. If I want to, because I know this one's really hard or really easy, I can modify individual questions if I want to for the amount of time on that question. Or I could simply turn off the timer for that question. Great. We're going to keep it as is. So there is my answer. There's the puzzle. And then here is feedback. Now, this is also optional, but something I highly recommend you do because it's just another opportunity to engage your learners, to reinforce that information. When I'm write a lot of games as kind of, you know, just like proof of concept, so they're a lot of fun. Or the point is fun, meaning. So I will throw just like, did you also know, or more random facts that just are fun and add to the question that we just talked about. You don't have to have this information. Again, I highly recommend you do. And you can also have different feedback for, oh, you know, for correct and incorrect, meaning like, oh, you know, it's actually was this, or, oh, sorry, you know, or, hey, well done. Since you knew that, here's something else to know. In some of our games, not in Scramble, but in some of our games, you even have the opportunity for advanced feedback, meaning you can add in an additional interstitial slide after a question with more videos, audio, images, blah, 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 to just further re-engage your learners. For Scramble, if you want to upload specific audio tracks, you can. I don't really have too many MP3s floating around ever since the advent of Napster, but you can absolutely upload audio tracks as well for clues. Now, I'm going to click save. See that little asterisk means we have information that has not been saved. I'm of the early Microsoft Word generation, save every 5 seconds, because God forbid you lose your work. Now, this game is ready to rock. All you need is one working question, and you can deploy and play the game. We're clearly going to build some more, but just look, this is all it can take to gamify your training. Let's do another question. All right, next one here. Here's my question. Go through these just a little faster now. Here's my roadmap. My answer is my roadmap, rather. Dude, I keep doing that. There's my feedback. Excellent. Then I'm going to save again. You don't have to save after every question, mind you, just mind me. I am paranoid and rather safe than sorry, right? You know what? Let's do this real quick. So I can show you just how, whoopsies, except you're going to say, Jake, you put that in the wrong thing. I know. All right, there we go. You can see how once you have the content built and you get used to this, just look how easy it is to drop this information in, right? Piece of cake, no problem. Here is a sentence scramble. So all I do is change that. And then I have in my sentence, oopsies, not my words themselves. One more. Is someone keeping a stopwatch on me? How fast can Jake go? Actually, that could be a fun game for next time. How fast can Jake build one of these games? We're just taking bets next time, right, Stephanie?
Yeah, I'll send out a form ahead of time.
Talk to Stephanie. She'll give you the over-under. All right, the answer there is resistance is futile. All right. Da-da-da. Look at that. That's how easy it was for me to build a 5-question game. Now, mind you, it is not that fast for me to create and research and write this content. That is the hardest part of doing this, is coming up with that content you're going to put into your game. Once you have that, as you see, dragging, dropping, copying, pasting, it's a piece of cake. And all of our games, except maybe 2 of them, are pretty much that simple. Our branching path game scenarios is just a little more complicated, obviously, for the game mechanics, because you can have different branching narrative paths. But the other 8 games are add a question, plop it in, you're gamifying your training. Cool. So now that we have our game, how do I share it? So I talked about this URL. This is probably the easiest way to share this out to learners. So much so that I can copy it and paste it into the chat. And if you all want, you can click on that and play. That's it. That's how easy it is. Reminder that the Training Arcade, it's not an app. It's not a plugin. It's not anything that needs to be downloaded or installed. As long as you and your learners have web connectivity, you can play and build games in the Training Arcade. On top of that, all of our games can be SCORM wrapped in either editions, so you can put them in any sort of LMS, any other learning tool that you want. There's that URL again. You can embed them into websites, LMSs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So really easy with the click of a button to share this stuff out to your learners, and you are rocking and rolling. All right. Now, I do realize I forgot a couple of things on the side here. My apologies. So these things aren't really necessary to the actual gameplay, but this is just kind of some branding. So we have a couple extra skins in here, but you will have a few skins to choose from. Origami blue, look at that. That's nice. I'm gonna do that one. I like origami blue instead. So we're gonna click save. If you want to have some background music, you can have that as well, just to make it a little more exciting. If you want to upload your company logo, you can. It is simply a file explorer. You can upload, I think I'm just going to have a silly picture there for a second. Yep, that's just a stock image, but just shows up down in the bottom there. You can even upload a, can you tell I was building a Thanksgiving game? You can even upload a image for the background. You can upload an image for the title of the game, or you can just make it text as well. Or you don't have to do any of that. It's all up to you. You can also have some information. You can put a consent checkbox and some links to your privacy policies if you need to. Again, most of this information is optional, things you don't have to have or not have on the game, and you will see that these optional things are usually checked for you. Cool. All right, so we've built our game. I want to test it to make sure it works because, you know, my fiance was a software tester. Oh my goodness, God forbid I build something and don't play it first. If you want, you can do it right from here. Click play game. Here we are. I'm gonna click start. Hello there. Why are we here and how did I get this beautiful life? Look at that, looks familiar, eh? Then we click OK, registration. So I have the leaderboard turned on, but I'm not asking for anything else. So I'm going to go with JK, hit submit. Now this is where the tutorial would have shown up for users if we had it turned on, but we did it. Now here's Scramble. Here's my score. Here's how many clues there are. Here's my time ticking away. And here are hints. So if I have no idea what's going on, I can click the hint and it will give me one of the questions. And then you click on the letters. All right, hit submit. I got it. Sweet. Look at all those flashing lights. I feel great about myself. I got it correct. You get more points if you answer faster, right? And you get another hint if you get the clue correct. Then here is your feedback. Reinforce what you just learned. We go to the next question. Now to root for your next vacation. The sponsorship blank helps determine where buy-in is needed for the change to succeed. And I think it's road map. And if I want, I can just undo things, click submit, got it again. 2 out of 5, there's my score. Got another hint, keep it moving. Put me in. The blank plan outlines steps for direct managers and their roles to change in management. All right, coaching. And I'm just clicking on these and they are populating automatically into that. Click submit, look at that. You see how easy and intuitive this really is, right? So there isn't really a learning curve. It's really easy for you and your learners to do it. Actually, hang on, let me just, I got that wrong. So if you get it wrong, it pops back out for you, right? There you go. We got one more question. Got all my hints. So see, look, I've got, so here we go. We made a little mistake. This was supposed to be a sentence, or excuse me, a letter scramble, but I made it a sentence scramble instead. This is why we test our games, Jake. So you make that quick save. I do this. This is how I test the games. I will change them while I'm in the middle of doing it so I don't forget, because this isn't going to change. This will not be affected, this tab, if I make changes in here, right? And there we go. That's it. So thanks for playing. Here's my score, correct answer. So I could play it again. I could log out, check the leaderboard, or like I said, if I go back to game info, if I wanted to put any additional learn more button in URL, this is where that would live. All right. Ta-da, we did it. We built, played the Scramble game, and it only took us half an hour, and I went slow as molasses. So that is how easy it really is to start gamifying this stuff. So I am here to answer any questions you all may have.
All right, Jake, we do have a question. Are you clicking something to move off of the feedback screen, or does it disappear that fast?
Good question. So I am, so the feedback screen does stay there. Let me show you. Sorry, that's a good question. So here we go, communication. God, I had to put the longest one first, right? Okay, so I hit submit. There we go. So The feedback will sit here and I will sit here until I click continue. I was just moving quickly through it just to move through it. But you as the user, the single player, right, you have complete control over when this moves. And then I click continue and we go on our way. Good question.
Yes, you were just really in the speed frame of mind.
I was, sorry.
Now, I know one question we get a lot of times is there a limit to the number of learners that can play each game you build?
Another great question. No, you can have as many learners as you want playing these games. In terms of who can build and access the training arcade, that is a different question. You do have to purchase admins for building the game, but you can have anybody in the world play this game as long as they have the link to it.
And if you have that, okay, is the gamification platform part of the standard ELB suite? So I think this is in reference to our authoring suites, the gold, silver, and platinum. And the training arcade is not part of those. It is a separate subscription. And I think we have a few different levels to fit your budget. There's like 3 games, 10 games, 10 games plus arcades, maybe. Jake's the expert. We'll let him answer that.
You got it.
A genius.
There's pricing for you.
Perfect.
So the training arcade is what we just looked at. And this is our game building tool. You're welcome. This is our game building tool. What we just looked in, I build a Scramble game, I build a Jeopardy game, I build a trivia game, and then they live right as games by themselves. We have a gamification destination, if you will, kind of an LMS called Arcades, which is, you guessed it, a bunch of different games thrown into one living environment. You can also put in learning journeys, things of this nature. Arcades is a whole other beast that I am falling in love with more and more each day. There is some information on that if you are interested, but Arcades is populated by games you build in the training arcade, like we all just did.
But you can also upload PDFs and like links to videos into Arcades as well. So if you want to do sort of like a blended learning thing or have someone read a job aid and then play a game that tests their knowledge of what they just read, you can do all of that in Arcades.
Precisely. Videos, audio, PDFs, anything you want to get your training materials into your learners' hands. So
it's
cool. Any other questions? Oh, here we go.
Oh, here we go. Is the leaderboard ongoing, or can you set time limit or audience limits?
That's a good question too. So it is mostly ongoing. One thing you can do is, say if you're testing a game and you don't want your score to show up on the leaderboard because you wrote it, right? Like it's not a real score or what have you. You can hide yourself from the leaderboard. 1 second. Good questions. All right, so here is the Scramble game that we just built. Oh, look at that. It looks like some of you maybe started playing. I love it. So you can see here, first the different sessions, the accuracy, JL, JK, AT, AC. If I go to the leaderboard and I want to hide myself, I can, right? And you can also look at a custom date range here as well. If you want to hide everybody on here, you can do that also, just to make it a little easier to cut that up. In my opinion, I actually think an easier way to go about it, perhaps easier way to go about it, is make a new copy of the game. You can do that unlimited times as well. So if I have this game and say, so we do this, like I wrote, we have tons of Jeopardy games and we use them for a lot of different instances. I have my master version and then I just copy it for every different webinar or conference we go to, so that data just kind of lives in that its own game by itself. So if you want to copy a game, it's a click of a button. Some of you maybe already saw it. I'm in my game. I want to copy the game, save the game. Now, we have different subdomains in our, you don't need to worry about this too much, but you can have different subdomains if you have a very large organization and you want them, but it's just going to default to the one that you currently work in. You hit submit, done. And it automatically, what it does is it just adds the word copy to it, and it completely copies everything else. So if I go to my list of games, look at that. Here's the first one. Here is the copy, two completely separate entities living by themselves. And then if you want, you can also scroll down to the danger zone and you can delete a game or archive it. So it just is off your list and out of your mind. There you go. There are a lot of different ways to go about that.
And I think this is a good point to make. If you have a subscription, you can make as many Jeopardy games as you want. You can make as many Scramble games as you want. It's not like you can only make 5 Jeopardy games a month or something like that. You can make as many different versions as you need for your training purposes.
Yeah.
All right. I think that is all the questions that we have. Thank you so much, Jake, for sharing this with us today.
My pleasure.
Thank you to everybody who joined us. Now, if you are interested in learning more about other games in the Training Arcade, I believe next month, here's a quote. This is a good question. What happens to the games if you no longer have the subscription?
Cool, good call. So I need to get more, we hang on to the data in the game. So say your subscription ends, right? We hang on to the data in the games, I think for 30 days, it might be 60 days. I don't exactly remember which one it is, just to kind of hang on to that for you in case you wish to renew for a little bit. But then after that fact, we scrub the games and scrub the data once you had finished with your subscription.
And once your subscription ends, you would no longer be able to play the games.
Correct. But we have plenty of folks, who will get in touch with you to remind you, just like, hey, by the way, this is coming up, so you don't lose your data. Imagine that. So yes, that will not be a surprise to you, Angela. Good question, though.
Great question.
Yeah.
All right. So next month, Jake will be showing us how to build Jeopardy, which is one of the most popular games in the Training Arcade.
My favorite.
Yes. So you can keep an eye out for that next month. And you can also keep an eye out for the recording of this. That'll be coming to your inboxes by tomorrow morning.
Cool. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Have a great day and a great weekend.